make a quick reference to you and get your comment on that in a minute or two, and then I'll move on to Rashid Pelpo. I'm holding in my hand the Constitution Review Commission's report. This is page 501, paragraph 187. And I read, it says, the Commission further observes that there is general consensus among observers of the decentralization process in Ghana that the 2003, 2007, and 2011 upgrades and creations of districts were done largely for political convenience. These clear breaches of statutory requirements remain largely unchallenged because the power to create districts is vested in and exercised by the president. When these infractions occur, it is difficult for succeeding president to reverse the situation because of the political price they may have to pay for doing so. In the end, local governance suffers and effective decentralization is not achievable. It appears to be a clear indictment of the process of creating districts and constituencies so far.
Ordinarily, it would appear so. But you see, in 2004, that was not so. It's very clear. In 2004, the Electoral Commission, exercising the 7-year mandate to create constituencies, created constituencies. There were no districts created before the Electoral Commission created the constituencies in 2004. This time, and what you said will fall into what has happened this year, the government created the districts. And because districts must align with constituencies, the Electoral Commission, in the creation of new constituencies, is forced to create constituencies that will fall in line with the districts that have been created. And indeed, the Electoral Commission himself said, we'll do it with the parliamentary hearings, that if he just creates to fit just the district, it will be gerrymandering. So he will go ahead and create more to try and dilute the gerrymandering. So what you said in the report applies squarely to this year. And that's one of the difficulties, the huge perception out there that there is gerrymandering, and the Electoral Commissioner forcing itself to go by the districts is perpetuating or encouraging gerrymandering, which is not good for our democracy.
The suggestion out there is that you are stopped, or you do not have the right to speak to this issue in the manner you do because you are equally guilty. I'll come back to you later on, but let me get to the majority leader.
But you've asked
let
me
me get to the majority leader. I'll come to you.
But you asked me a question. You said that we are stopped because you are equally guilty.
Exactly.
I have just told you that we are not equally guilty, because in 2004, we did not create districts to force the Electoral Commission to create constituencies.
Are you aware that there's an action at the Supreme Court, we are told, as of yesterday, that is challenging the creation of those constituencies, the 30 constituencies under the Kufuor administration?
Fine. I mean, there's an action today. I used to have something. But you see,
that's for comedy.
Yeah, but no, maybe something is not right. But you see something, the question you raise, I'm saying to you that we are not equally guilty, because we did not create districts to force the Electoral Commission to create constituencies to fall in line with our districts.
All right.
In this time, they have created the districts. So we are not equally guilty. Let me just
Deputy Majority Leader, you were in Parliament yesterday. You organized a press conference and you spoke to some of these issues that have come up so far. And you think that the NPP is up to some mischief. What is your defense of the charges that are laid against you?
Well, first of all, we are very much surprised that the polls are shifted, and the new dimension of the issue is about time and time. Everybody's talking about the fact that there's no time, and we are worried because at the beginning of this process, when Article CI 73 was laid in Parliament, the question was about the fact that there were mistakes in the documents.
Over 100 errors.
And over 100 errors were found in it. The subsidiary legislation, the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation brought them up. And at the end of the review period, they wrote a report that said that Parliament should annul the CI. So And that's what we had been looking for all the while. Because in the process of the sittings of the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation, people kept telling us that we should get the Electoral Commission to come and withdraw the thing. And we insisted that let them present their report. Let us see their report. And if the report is damning enough, then we can all agree on what to do. So essentially, everything was about errors, errors, errors. Now, Electoral Commission itself, acknowledging the fact that there were these errors identified in the report, applied to Madam Speaker. They came personally, the chairman, his deputy came personally, and with leadership met Madam Speaker and requested that the document should be withdrawn from Parliament for corrections and relaying. I want everybody to take note of this. Many people out there are saying that the majority side is weak. Why did they allow the MPP side to force us to withdraw a document and to relay? The document is not the property or the initiative of the government, neither the majority side. It is the Independent Electoral Commission. It's independent. It's not controlled by anybody. They laid the paper, and it was laid because they don't have the locus in appearing before Parliament. It is done on behalf of the Electoral Commission by Parliament itself and by the leader of the House, and the leader is the majority leader.
The leader say that the majority had to work hand in hand with the EC to ensure that the document was in good shape.
Please listen. So the document, upon the request of the Electoral Commission, was withdrawn, corrected, and then relayed. But at the relaying, we thought that everybody said that we're correcting CI 73, and then not knowing, we did not anticipate that in the process CI 73 the numbering will change. It is not Parliament that numbers the documents. The documents are numbered by the state publishers, and so when, according to the Constitution, a CI is laid, it is referred, it is quickly gazetted. The same day it is laid, it is gazetted. In the process of the gazetting, it is named, it is numbered. So in the process of gazetting the corrected CI 73, the publishers numbered it 77 because they could no longer give it 73. They gave it 77. When it came back to Parliament, the minority opposed it and said they would never go with it. It is wrong for us to have CI 73 now being named 77. They wanted the name 73, the numbering 77, 73 to still reflect. But Madam Speaker insisted that it is not Parliament that numbers the papers, and that in any case we could ask the state publishers to do the numbering the way we wanted. But upon looking at the Constitution Article 11.7 of the Constitution, we recognize that it is not a problem with the numbering. But they also pointed out the fact that on the day of the laying, which was the 15th of August, it came back and the date on it was 16th of August. But the Constitution again said that the date of the gazetting, or the date of the laying, is the same date it will be gazetted. So that there was a discordance with the dates. And so it also was riddled with, it also faced a lot of problems. First of all, the fact that the opposition opposed the fact that the numbering was not in accordance with what they knew. And the second thing was that there was a discordance between the date it was laid and the date recorded in the paper. So the Madam Speaker said that she ruled that the numbering would not be a problem, but that it should be sent back to the state publishers to put the right dates. But the minority leader also raised some other issues. He said that even in the corrected version of the 77, there were some fundamental mistakes still wrong with it. So Madam Speaker directed the majority leader to meet the EC to ensure that those kinds of problems were corrected. So just remember that nobody is opposed to the leader laying the paper on behalf of the Electoral Commission. I don't think that anybody will also oppose to Madam Speaker directive that the majority leader should go back and see the Electoral Commission to make sure that no other mistakes are done on the paper. So he did exactly that. And he met the Electoral Commission, and they firm up the document, they remove all the errors, and they brought it back to Parliament and laid.
But don't you, sincerely, don't you find a problem where one document is being laid and withdrawn 3 separate occasions?
2 separate occasions.
2 separate occasions.
Yes.
Does it not suggest to you that we may be a bit in a hurry?
No, but upon explanation, you shouldn't ask that question. The first reason it was withdrawn was because there were errors, and then Parliament by itself thought that it should be annulled. But the EC came back and withdrew that thing to correct the errors, because there were some electoral areas thrown at several other places which were not supposed to be there, and there were several other errors, about over 100 errors. So when the errors were corrected, normally you should relay it, but upon relaying it, the dates were changed and the numbering had problems. But the Speaker directed that don't have these problems on the document any longer, or so in the documents any longer.
Recognize that.
But let me tell you that.
But for the intervention of the minority, would have had a document that would have been passed by now, but that would have been fraught with problems still.
No, it's wrong. The intervention of Parliament, let me tell you that it is the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation. It's not made up of the minority alone. It's made up of the majority and the minority. And I said that that committee reported that the document was full of errors and that it should be annulled. That was a report of the committee.
At that point, was the majority in agreement?
Why? If we were not in agreement, we wouldn't agree with them.
No, I don't remember that the majority was in agreement.
I'm saying it was a report. If there is a contrary report to that, the minority or the majority would have written another report which would be debated in Parliament. But there was one report. There was no other report apart from that. And that represented the collective view of the committee. But you ask a question whether it was proper for the majority leader to see the EC for the correction. I think after my explanation, you wouldn't ask that question anymore.
You have explained.
Yes. Now, the other issue is that now, when all these things are done and the corrections are made, we would not expect the minority to come out with a different issue altogether. I remember in our meeting with the EC, they told us, look, we don't have a problem. The minimum time we need to notify the public that they should go in and contest the constituency is 30 days. If only you will not keep it too long for us not to have our time, we will have a problem. And we all assured them, minority, majority, we assured them that, look, withdraw it, relay it, we will make sure that you have your time. So the turnaround of the minority to come out and now complain not about errors, because we made sure that every error was corrected.
There appears to be a certain substantial measure of opinion that we need to be slow about this process, and that the time is short.
Where is this substantial measure of opinion coming from?
I'm talking about the TUC. I'm talking about other individuals, of course, including the minority.
Let me tell you something. I believe very firmly that there had been some misinformation thrown out to the public, which was also bought by some organizations, and they have risked their reputation by making statements too early.
Political parties, there's some of the church.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there has been some misinformation thrown out.
Yeah, a wrong question was asked.
Yes, you see, there's so much misinformation in the public.
First of all, debate about the wrongness of the question.
First of all, the impression is that it is a majority that is piloting this thing, and that it is a majority that is withdrawing it because there was too much pressure on them by the minority, and that it is we who are doing it and turning and then conniving with the EC to do all that. The EC is, let me tell you one thing, that when the Madam Speaker directed that we should see that no corrections were made, and some members of the majority, upon criticism by the public, were anxious to see that the thing was done rightly, visited the EC. They were sacked. They were told to their faces that they couldn't stay, they couldn't work with them, they should go back and they will bring the paper back to Parliament.
You have also been criticized for embarking on what some would say is both immoral and illegitimate in a democratic environment, that an instrument that is yet to mature. constituencies that have yet to be legalized, you have already organized primaries for them.
A responsible political party would not wait until a CI matures in 21 sitting days. Any responsible political party anticipate that you are going to contest elections. In fact, from day one when we lost the elections, when the MPP lost the elections, I think the following week, you saw them in their MPP t-shirts and they started campaigning up to date, because they anticipated that on the 7th of December, there will be an election.
Are they exactly the same situations?
Exactly the same situations. If you anticipate that they'll be creating new constituencies, and then you fold your arms and say that, well, I'll wait until the law matures before I start campaigning. They are campaigning in the constituencies, as I'm telling you, the new constituencies.
If the law doesn't mature?
I'm saying that they are campaigning in the new constituencies. We know that some people are strategizing and replacing themselves so that they can shift from where they were to other places. I know members of parliament who lost in their primaries, who are now tipped to take over in the new constituencies. It is logical and it's normal for parties to anticipate that an action will result in their that will have direct impact on their political fortunes, for them to take steps to ensure that they are part and parcel of the system.
Which means that
and they work towards it.
You have made up your minds.
Everybody has made. It is not as
and what may the 45 constituencies will come into being, and so there's no way out.
Well, how can we make up our minds? It's a legal process. It is not us making us our mind.
Okay.
It is a system that is making up its mind. The system provides that when a CI is laid within 21 sitting days, it becomes a law.
All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much. You are watching Newsfile on Joy News. This is your multi-TV, and also you are listening to us on radio. This is Joy 99.7 FM and on our affiliate stations across the country. From Rashid Pelpo, I'll go to Mr. Malik Kukubako Jr. All that's been going on so far, the back and forth, the majority, the minority, and the discussion, the debate that's gone on, how do you appreciate the process?
Well, a very untidy one. It's not a reflection of the competence that I thought this country had. And I'm not blaming just one institution, in this case the EC, but in a broader picture. And it's not too, I'm not proud to be a Ghanaian in this respect. But I'm not sure it is factual that the majority side did not show a determination to ensure that even CI 73 passed. They did, at least publicly. So Honorable Azuma, is it Azuma? He's a member of the local government committee, I'm sure. He's a minister of state at the presidency. I recall hearing him on radio stations insisting, and not only him, other majority reps on various radio stations, insisting that that thing could pass and that subsequently they could do the corrections. And the attention was called to the fact that the Supreme Court had actually even ruled to the effect that Parliament had no mandate to do some amendments and things. So this was public record. So there was a certain determination. There's a determination on the part of the EC to carry out this constitutional mandate. We all know that. And in terms of the law and in terms of the constitution, I'm not sure there's any dispute as to whether the EC has the mandate to do what it wants to do. But we all have seen what has happened in Parliament. And the drama, the comedy of errors that has accompanied this particular exercise, and the role the majority has played. Indeed, it is evidenced by the fact that they've gone ahead, as you said, to organize primaries in those yet to be legalized or created constituencies. It's a sign of determination. Honorable Rashid says that it shows the tactical and strategic nature of politics and what they are doing. It's possible that could be there, but there's no doubt that it also shows a certain determination and anticipation that this would happen at all costs and by all means. There's no doubt about that. You are being politically smart and savvy, but it is also in anticipation that this is going to happen. And we all know it's because of the constitutional structure, the structure we have in Parliament. By the laws, you need 2/3 of the Parliament to annul that kind of constitutional instrument. And it is obvious that once the majority are not interested in annulment, you won't get a 2/3. So clearly, based on the processes, that the legislative processes, it could become law by the 21 days. It can be challenged subsequently at an appropriate forum. I'll be honest with you, whilst we are not, and I am not, for a moment, disputing the constitutional mandate of the EC, I think the whole thing has become so untidy relative to the election cycle timetable. And I'm not surprised that civil society groups other than political parties have waded into the controversy and are cautioning the whole process.
And you support that?
Oh, I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
But just a while ago and repeatedly, you have said that there's no question about the EC's constitutional mandate to carry out this duty. So the question would then be, what's all this problem? Is it
you should have waited for me to
not unnecessary and self-inflicted?
It is not. It is not. The EC is not above the laws of this country. It's a creature of the Constitution, and it is subject to the Constitution. And so I was proceeding to say that in view of all these controversies, in view of the fact that they have a constitutional mandate to do what they are doing, and in any case, the same Constitution, 296C, says that those who have discretionary powers and should exercise their discretion in line with the laws, 296 A, B, and C. I'm laying the emphasis on C, okay? Especially when you are not a judge or a judicial authority. You know better than I do when it comes to these things. You ought even to proceed in exercising that discretion by providing us,
rules,
thank you. Bring in Article 51. As I sit here, I am not aware of any rules and regulations that have been put out there at any forum, whether before Parliament or anywhere else, indicating how the EC intends to exercise that discretion or that mandate of creating 45 constituencies. That, you see, draw an extension between an instrument that would indicate that I intend to create 45 constituencies because there is a census, because districts are being created, okay? And place it before the House of Parliament for it to mature within 21 days. There's an extension between that exercise and what Article 51 also requires of you. We need to see the regulations. In this case, the formula, the methodology. What is it that is going into that exercise? I think if you read the Constitution very carefully, you can legitimately seek answers to this question I'm raising as part and parcel of enhancing our democratic culture, and not just say because somebody has the mandate, which is not in dispute, the person can proceed anyhow to, undertake his exercise his discretion. That's not what the Constitution says. And I'm saying that this whole controversy can only be cured, or if you like, this mischief can be cured at an appropriate forum. The appropriate forum is the court, Supreme Court. That's where I've raised. And unfortunately, we don't have much time, but we don't have the luxury of an alternative. We ought to quickly, and that's why I'm wondering, the judiciary, because I know there are about 3 or 4 cases in court over this matter. There's somebody else seeking a restraining order. Is it an injunction? And I'm told that Chief Justice
on the 12th.
On the 12th. We need a little bit more urgency and responsiveness on the part of the judiciary. This is a critical matter. We have barely 2 months to an election. There are 3, 4, 5 legal challenges relative to this matter. And there's no way we can't sit in a bedroom because of the determination. That's why I began by that. The determination on the part of the EC to exercise its mandate. Because of the determination on the part of the ruling party and the majority in Parliament to actually go along with that course of action. It's obvious that there's no debate out there. And because of also the determination of the minority, the civil society groups like TUC and the rest to propose caution, stop, let's change, former President Kufuor and all the rest. Clearly there's a clash out there. But that clash can only be interrogated properly at the appropriate forum, and that's the courts, where we will have to ask questions. The questions are simple. What is the formula? Is it true that when districts are created, necessarily the EC must be activated in actually also forming constituencies on the method, the formula that one constituency per one district? Is it true? Where is it captured in law? Either in the Constitution or in the Local Government Act? Is it somebody's interpretation? It may make technical and administrative sense, but is it constitutional? Who can determine that? It cannot be the Supreme Court who can determine this. Okay? Population quota, is that what we are applying? The Constitution makes that the primary factor. Okay? Then talks about the fact that you shouldn't, no constituency should cut across regional, more than one region. Is that not so? There's an exception regime somewhere that gives the EC the chance to do one or two things relative to population density and all the rest. But the primary factors that the Constitution indicates must be operational is the population quota and the regional thing. These are issues. We are all debating it, and we all have different opinions.
I don't know if you have averted your mind to this, and all those who are making the calls for caution and to hold on until the next election year. I have not heard anybody talk about the implications of holding on.
What are the implications?
I'm interested in knowing what the implications will be.
Yeah, what are the implications?
The districts have already been created.
Yes.
And there's a question about not leaving them often in respect of having the MPs.
But I've asked you that question. Where is it stated in law? I see where you are coming from because of the composition. And the MPs who are members of the district assembly, we've forgotten, are even ex officio. They are ex officio. They are all status. The Constitution has given them a certain character, status. So they are not a primary requirement for the workings of a district assembly. So if you are proceeding from the fact that the Constitution or the Local Government Act talks of them being members of a district assembly, I'm saying that in terms of the true sense of the law, of course, I'm just expressing an opinion. That's why I consider the Supreme Court is the appropriate place. But I have a right to express an opinion.
Certainly.
And in doing so, I am challenging the formula that says that once districts are created, necessarily we must have a constituency, that is one constituency per district. And they will tell you that it is in the Local Government Act, section 6(7), which says no person shall at any one time be a member of more than one district assembly. This is what they will tell you. But I'm saying that me, as a layman, this does not tell me that the Constitution or the law says that there should be one constituency per a district. It doesn't say so. It's not explicit.
You're right. In terms of the explicitity of it.
Sure.
You're still watching Newsfile on Joy News Channel. This is Multi TV, and you are listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM. From Kokubako, I moved to the Deputy Education Minister, Edward Omanebwama. Youth and sports, yes, you should always say so. Youth and sports, you know, sometimes the way we mix them up. All right. Now, Kukui just made a certain, reference to the Constitution and the exercise of discretionary power, and the Constitution seeks to vet that exercise of discretionary power by saying you need to promulgate some regulations so that we can all see and be able to hold you to task and to be sure that what you're doing is consistent with the tenets of the Constitution and democracy. Do you think that so far the challenges that have come and the contestations against the EC in respect of this matter are valid?
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. I think that the challenges that are being thrown at the Electoral Commission cannot be said to be valid. For instance, what at all, based on the discussions that we have had here this morning, should warrant anybody threatening Dr. Kojo Afarijan. I cannot understand it. I can't appreciate this. The discussions we have had here this morning, what about it? What size? Is it the tail, the head, should warrant those threats on the life of the Electoral Commissioner of Ghana, Dr. Kojo Afarijan?
He certainly has integrity, but sorry, this is an allegation. Yes, yet to be investigated.
I don't think that Dr. Kojo Afarijan would tell a lie about this in any way. You understand? And this is where I take lessons from those who have also quoted what Craig Murray wrote in his book about what happened to Dr. Kojo Afarijan in the year 2000. And then I say that if that, the gravity of that, did not warrant his coming out to voice it, and something is happening that has made him come out this time around to voice it, then what is happening must be very, very gargantuan, to say the least. Again, what about this discourse that we are having here should make anybody, based on this a contestation of ideas, project into a violent outcome of the 2012 December 7 elections? And we have had members of the MPP drawing organic linkages between the discourse that we are having and a likely bad outcome, violence and all that arising out of the December 7 election.
Who in the NPP are you referring to?
I'm referring specifically to the respected former president, President Kufuor. I think that is also not the best way to proceed on this debate. I've been listening carefully around the table. I'm happy your intelligent questions have helped us in demystifying some mischievous myths. One, the fact that we have only had 2 withdrawals at the seat of our legislature, that is with Parliament. One was about errors, and the second one, I will even call it consequential, because once those errors had to be corrected, the numbering obviously had to change. But it was out there that, there have been 4 withdrawals, the quartet of withdrawals and all that. And I'm sure all these have led into the poisoning of the political atmosphere. Hence, unsuspecting organizations and bodies also hooking up to some of these things that are being pushed into the atmosphere. My next issue has to do with the mischievous myth of the fact that it was even pushed out there that it was like the majority or even the executive that was the author of this document that is being debated both in Parliament and out of Parliament. Honorable Rashid Pelpo has laid the facts very bare on the ground. The last one has to do with the issue of a gerrymandering.
But don't you think that's a bit fair, because the majority was leading the defense on radio everywhere?
That is why in your question, I have deliberately stayed off becoming the spokesperson for the Electoral Commission. But the majority, they were doing their job in Parliament. They were doing their job. And every step of the way, they'll be part of the committee on the subsidiary legislation. So how can you dichotomize members of the majority who served on this as committee on subsidiary legislation, and the report came out with some corrections in the identification of some problems in there? How can you dichotomize that from the fact that they were also espousing the good aspects of the same document? We need to be looking at these things from a dual point of view, not to be picking just one aspect that they are seen to be promoting it and say that because of that they are part and parcel of the authoring of this particular document. One other issue which I came up has to do with the fact that because government went ahead to create the districts, hence it was it amounts to gerrymandering. The MPP has tried very hard to be legal purist, if I should say so, because even when it got to numbering 73, 77, they say that, look, we are legal purists, and we want the right thing to be done. If that is the case, my message to them that they cannot approbate and reprobate. They should apply the same purity to the fact that the executive also has a mandate to ensure development, equitable development of our country. And we do these things through a system called a decentralization. Hence the need for the creation of districts. If that has been done, and the consequence of that, per the EC's also legitimate duty, is for constituencies to be created. Why not? The EC has also done the right thing by embarking on its legitimate duty and has even said that if I were to have gone ahead to just do it based on the districts that were created, my initial plan, it would have amounted to this. It doesn't mean that the executive in creating the district created constituencies. So that against that mischievous myth also falls flat. But I can understand why the MPP will want to be pushing something that borders on abuse of incumbency and all those things. It is because it is a product of their own subconscious, their own conduct when they were in office. I hold in my hand this ICDD document, and it only came to me just this week. In this ICDD document, my brother, if you are to look at the litany of abuse of incumbency, which is what maybe the MPP I think that we are embarking on, we will not be mean-spirited at all. On page 14 of this document, they say that in Eastern region, a monitor reports that the DC used his political clout to remove an NDC parliamentary aspirant from his position as tutor in a public school. After the DC had a talk with the headmaster, the NDC aspirant was told to immediately write a letter of absence without pay, despite there being no explicit requirement that teachers resign their post before running for public office. Another one. In the September report on incumbency abuse, a monitor reported that MPP billboards were constructed in some of the major runabouts in Kumasi, despite an explicit bylaw of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly forbidding such constructions. Into October, the MPP continued to scoff at this KMA bylaw with apparent impunity. Taking their cues from the MPP, representatives of the NDC erected billboards in Kumasi runabouts in the middle of October. Drivers in Kumasi had their view obstructed by the billboards of several parties. On 9th November 2004, the KMA chief executive went on record on Garden City Radio on the topic. He brought clarity to the issue by stating that all party symbols will be removed from Kumasi's major ceremonial streets. All of the NDC paraphernalia was removed, but an MPP sign remained conspicuously intact in the Swami runabout.
What's the relevance? Where's the correlation on this subject?
Let me cite this last one, which is very, very classic, and then I'll come to the issue of correlation. It is so enormous in here. This is my last one, and it will surprise you how incumbency abuse could deteriorate this much. In Ashanti region, a HIPIC biogas latrine was painted red, blue, and white. The toilets were bought with state resources, yet they bore the colors of only the ruling party. It is this that is deep in their subconscious. And so they think that every action of the NDC,
state passes and
fantastic. They are all contained.
Regional administration.
They are all contained in this.
What do you call it? Northern region.
Are you referring to the Metro Mass buses or state buses? Because the Metro Mass buses, we understood that the state was available for advertisement. So if you could afford, you could get your advertisements done on them.
Only MPP could afford.
But we have had other private individuals and firms also do it.
Something you will also know what the CDD also said about the same thing. But for want of time, let me move on. So it is this abuse of incumbency as perpetrated by the MPP that is deep in their subconscious, and they think that any action by the NDC administration is likely to be taking lessons from this.
I ask you one question.
We are not going to be mean-spirited in terms of our approach towards this.
I ask you one question at this point, that don't you think that it is the majority rather than the minority that is to blame for what you say is deliberate misinformation, leading to people saying that it's rather government that is pushing this and not the EC? I'm asking this because I think that the first time the document was laid, it was not laid in the name of the EC, and that was an issue.
Yes, you see, that is why I do not want to fall into the unfortunate, and it's a consequential trap. Once you begin to do advocacy for the Electoral Commission, legitimately, because they cannot be on every platform, then they will turn around and use that same legitimate advocacy to say that you are speaking for the EC. So I want to proceed. I want to test the MPP's conduct on two fronts: the legal test and the sincerity test. People around the table have spoken eloquently about the legal, so I may just dwell on the sincerity
and do that
test.
very quickly because your time is up. Your time is up.
Wow. As we speak now, the MPP is complaining about time. Is that not the case?
That's so.
Okay. You studied law at KNUST Kumasi. When you are going to Kumasi, you go through Nkoko. The next time you go through Nkoko, find out whether the MPP, they've had their parliamentary primaries in the Nkoko constituency. They've not had their parliamentary primaries in the Nkoko constituency. What are they waiting for? They are complaining about time. If it is sincere that time is of essence, the time left is not going to be able to afford them the opportunity to select their parliamentary candidates. What is stopping them from going ahead? If time is of essence, for me, they failed the sincerity test here. I'm being told by Kwai also. Others have even said that there are other constituencies that they have still not held their primaries. So if time is an issue, then I'm questioning their conduct. So the sincerity test on this one falls flat. For me, the MPP, I think that opposing critical issues, perhaps, if I'm to be very charitable, is deep in their DNA, their political DNA. Big things like the Akosombo Dam. We had Dr. Kofi Abrefa-Buzia on the 2nd of December, 1962. U.S. Senate espousing eloquently why the Akosombo Dam project should not materialize. These are the lessons that we are learning. I think that the time test fails. The legal test also, at least, let's wait for the Supreme Court to rule on the legal ones. But so far, I am not convinced that the legal and the time test are any credible ones. They just want to frustrate the Electoral Commission.
Sorry, but that's where you stop. You're still watching as this is News. Just do a brief wrap up on the subject that we have been treating. And I will once again. I'd like to start with Nana Komia. Nana Komia, in about 4 minutes, I want you to wrap up on this subject. The question that is being asked is that will the NPP not contest? And in fact, some people are saying that you seems to be shifting your arguments. Now you seem to be talking only about morality and common sense and not legality.
The arguments have not shifted at all. We have always talked about the same thing. We spoke about the errors, and we're still speaking about the errors. Now, this is the NDC's press conference they had yesterday. The NDC, and my good leader was there. I'll just take 2 minutes to read it. The Electoral Commission brought a constitutional instrument to Parliament, CI 73, on Wednesday, 17th July. After careful scrutiny, the Subsidiary Legislation Committee made the following observations: that the provisions of the CI 73 conflicted with Supreme Court rulings, blah, blah. The CI 73 had several omissions and misplacements. there were numerous errors on the face of the record of CI 73. The committee recommended that the CI 73 be annulled, taken away, and brought and corrected one. The Electoral Commission did it, and they brought a corrected one. On 15th August 2012, the Electoral Commission brought a corrected CI 73, which was late. When the instrument went to the Assembly Press for printing and gazetting, the Assembly Press decided to renumber it CI 77 because the original CI 73 that was laid was faulted, and so cannot have the same number CI 73 as corrected. The date of laying to conflicts. This would distort the public record as well as confuse the public. So the corrected version was given CI 78. Incidentally, the printing house printed 16th August instead of 15th August. They insinuated, the printing house printed 16th August as against 15th August. It goes on to say, the Right Honourable Speaker requested the Electoral Commission to revisit the CI 77 and make further corrections as some mistakes were still detected in the corrected version. The EC did and returned the document to Parliament for relay. I dutifully did so on Tuesday, 4th September. The instrument was sent to Assembly for gazetting and publishing. This time it was given serial number CI 78. There's a comedy of errors that, like Kweku Baku said, doesn't befit this country.
Where is it?
I've just read to you. First, they brought CI 7. Your own press conference, what I read to you. They brought CI 73. When it was about to mature, so many mistakes, so many omissions, so many misplacements, so many errors. That's what they themselves have said. So CI 73 was replaced.
Here they were referring to the recommendations of the committee.
Yes.
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 Which they actually objected to, even though when I put it to Honorable Rashid Pepo, he said they didn't exactly do so. But we have your colleagues, including the Honorable Minister at the presidency, who spoke, and we can play them back to you. They were against
all of them. I mean, so my leader, please.
Let him finish.
No, my leader, go on. I mean, Azuma, when the CI 73 was going to be withdrawn, the NDC objected. You heard what Azuma said. John Tia was on your own station, saying that they won't allow the minority to detect and all of that.
That's correct.
But the Electoral Commission itself recognized the errors and was embarrassed and wanted to withdraw. The majority NDC didn't want it to be withdrawn. Why? So there's a comedy of errors. As we speak, it was CI 73 number 1, CI 73 number 2, CI 77, and now we have CI 78. One instrument has been laid 4 times. Never been done in the history of this parliament. And why do you think this is happening? Because of the haste, because of the pressure of time.
Will you contest it? Will you contest Will you contest the seat if it is passed?
When it becomes law, we would protest, but we will still contest. But you see, there was some propaganda that I need to move on. But I have 2 minutes.
You don't.
There's some propaganda that I need to.
You have a minute.
We are being told that there's mischief. As for Manibama, he creates his own mischief and myths, and then it says that he has dispelled it. The people who are talking, expressing concern about the TUC, the churches, the political parties, all of them are misinformed. Only Manibama has the correct information. He talked about abuse of incumbency. We're talking about CI, he's talking about incumbency. And he says some DCE painted some color. The latest report of the CDD, they talked about ministers of state abusing their office. They cited the member of parliament for Elembele just 2-3 weeks ago. And look at Omani Boama.
Is it the CDD or the Ghana Integrity Initiative?
One of them.
Yeah.
And the NDC was saying, no, all of them falling over each other. And then he talked about Akosomboda. Look, the National Health Insurance. You forget about Akosomboda when you were not born. In the National Health Insurance, when I myself was probably not born, a couple of years ago, the NDC objected. So when we are talking about issues, cut the propaganda. Okay. It's not worth.
So we'll be careful not to move into another discussion on incumbency abuse.
I'm just rounding. The conclusion is that, my brother, because the district's creation is forcing the Electoral Commission, there's a perception of gerrymandering, which is not good for our democracy. Because the census was not published on time, because the CY 73 was withdrawn, because you have withdrawer and so on, time has become a big issue.
Thank you.
We don't need it in our democracy.
Now, Honorable Rashid Pepo.
Thank you very much. Yes. When we are talking about the misinformation of the MPP, we are very real and very true about it. Nana, my good friend, who I'm encouraging to contest in the presidential elections, has just misled us. He said that to go and contest at his party primaries. That's what I mean. He should have challenged Nana.
My leader is doing mischief.
He should have challenged Nana. He just said that it has never happened in history that a CI is laid and withdrawn and given a different name.
4 times.
Let me tell you, the CI 47, read the history about it. You are a lawyer. The legal, talks about the legal procedures in courts, was laid in 2001 as CI 33. It came back as CI 41, 42. Now it's called CI 47. Several times, much more than the CI 73.
You say we're in better guy.
It is the nature of how CIs behave and LIs behave. The Constitution allows it to be laid without a number, so that it is numbered by the state publishers, and that's what happened in the particular instant. There is no mistake.
How do you lay it? CI what? No number. So the best thing to do is to go to the publishers, let them gazette it, give it the proper number before you bring it to Parliament. That's all. But because of your haste,
it is 7 minutes, and you are also parasitizing.
But I'm contradicting.
Let me say that it is the same misinformation he's again going on to give to the public. Can you read the Constitution Article 11(7)? A CI or any instrument, when it is brought before Parliament, it should be laid before Parliament. A. B. Be published. First laid, then be published in the Gazette in the day it is laid before Parliament. So, and you don't name it before it is gazetted.
So what do you call it? CI what? No name.
So yeah, normally a CI is laid.
You made that point.
A CI is laid by the Constitution. Then it is sent to the publishers. They gazette it and give it a name. It's not Parliament that gives it the name. So it is not the fault of Parliament that the name change. And CI 78 has no problem. We have not indicated in our press conference that there's a problem. So I think that we should be very straight with the point. And the issue also that some members of Parliament from our side oppose the withdrawal of the CI. They have the right to oppose it. It was not the position of the majority. The position of the majority finally, when we took it, was to go along with the EC to withdraw it and relay it. So we supported the idea that we should present a corrected version of
So you are
a CI
here and now that Honorable Azuma and John Tia were speaking on their individual capacities.
Yeah, they were
including even Honorable Cletus Avoka.
No, Honorable Cletus Avoka did not say we should not withdraw it. I can tell you in record, I sat down with him, the leadership sat down, we met the EC, we agreed that there were too many errors and it should be withdrawn. When the EC presented their arguments, we agreed with them along with Madam Speaker. We all agreed that it should be withdrawn. That was the official position of the majority. All other positions were individual perspectives were brought on the issue. None of them represented the majority to speak on this matter. And again, let me tell you the reason the EC will create a constituency. In the Constitution, look at Article 47(4) of the Constitution.
You have a minute.
There is, because of regional boundaries, also because of administrative and traditional areas, also because of population density, and also because of geographical features. The EC has taken all this into consideration and has prioritized population as one, because the same Constitution again has said that population census, when the enumeration results are out, then the EC can review the Constitution. And two, when after every 7 years, the EC can review the boundaries of the constituencies.
When will this instrument now mature?
It will mature.
78.
It will mature. You see, every one of us agreed, and the EC said that by the end of September, if it matures, it's excellent for them. If it doesn't go beyond the second week of October, it's excellent for them. And now I want to send this message to the
So now it will mature in the first week of October, is that it?
It will mature in the first week, at the end of September, depending on the number of times we sit. But this message is therefore sent to the TUC. You are a very important organization. We cherish what you have done for the people of Ghana so far. we cherish your opinion and we cherish the weight of your opinion. It's important that when issues as weighty as this come before the public, that you make statements with reference to the true facts of the situation. I will encourage them to have a dialogue with the EC before coming out to make statement, only because the minority side did a press conference and gave a wrong impression that there was something wrong with the timing.
I think that would be exactly a fair comment about the TUC. I suspect that they
I'm saying that
they would have done their research before.
No, they haven't
made
told you
their
they have done their research. EC didn't say that they have done their research. We haven't heard EC saying they have met them. I've heard Afarajam complaining that the remarks were not in accordance with.
But there's so much information out there. They may not need
there's
to
so much misinformation out there.
Audience with the EC.
Yes, information can be categorized as true, real, informed information and misinformed information. I think that on this matter of the CI, there's so much misinformation going on.
And the TUC has been misinformed.
I suspect that they have not gathered enough information about it. And I'll encourage them to go ahead and do it. We respect them. We want them to present a true picture of the situation to the Ghanaians. It's not just the TUC. In fact, what the TUC has said has largely been misinterpreted by the public. And so I will encourage them to come out and say the right thing, so we can all be on an even keel to move this nation forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I'll come to you, Abdul Malik Kubako.
Look, in the short term, with urgency, the judiciary should be activated. We should deal with the issues. Some of these issues cannot be tackled on this table or anywhere else. So the earlier, the better. That those issues in court are consolidated and dealt with swiftly. This whole thing about one constituency per each district and Justice Sirbo 1967 formula ought to be interrogated at the highest level. Because you see, if we don't do that, we may be creating the space for us to continue with such things. Presidents or executives create districts, population census comes, and then the instrument, that is the machinery you see, is compelled, not mischievously, but legitimately, to do certain things. And with a formula that is not clear. So where are we going to end? Maybe some 4,000 or 5,000 seats and constituencies. I'm just talking of the absurdity that could happen. We've got to find a way. That's in the short term. In the long term, we must be looking at constitutional amendments. Put a ceiling on the number of seats, constituencies that we have in Parliament, as the 1957 Constitution and 1969 Constitution had. We must be looking at that. Fortunately, we have these amendments coming. It can be incorporated. I'm not too sure it's too late. We should look at it critically. The financial and logistical outlay alone is compelling. Okay? Look, and my brother, to be honest with you, when we are talking of constituencies, they come more with the philosophy or the legal principle of representation. Decentralization comes with development. We appear to be suggesting that the mere creation of more constituencies will lead to development. We are even confusing the issues and creating problems for prospective MPs or even sitting MPs who are not the agents of development according to the constitutional structure, governance structure that we ourselves
they are legislators
in place. Yes, so let's stop that and look forward. If it's development, we should be looking at our district decentralization system and make it, enhance it and deepen it. That will bring more development. Representation must have a limit somewhere. Okay, as at now, if you look at the population quota and all the things Honorable referred to in the Constitution, a lot of regions are underrepresented. There's lack of equity in the thing. We cannot continue this way. So it's about time. Maybe we are blessed that this controversy has arisen, and through that we can deal with the matter.
Manibuama, I will take you on after these two text messages. This one, Obibini Richie, he writes, why has the NPP suddenly shifted gear from a matter of law to a matter of time and common sense? Don't they now believe in the performance of constitutional duties? When it is about them, fine case, but anyone other than them is something else. Ghana deserves better. And Chief News in Tamale, right? I would like to plead with the majority in Parliament to stop backing the creation of the constituencies just for the sake of peace.
Yeah, way forward. I think that the first thing is for all these threats on the life of the eminent electoral commissioner to cease with immediate effect. I also think that the MPP's posturing has also poisoned the atmosphere, hence giving oxygen to some people who may have evil motives to be pushing these aggressive messages down the ears of our hardworking electoral commissioner. Life is very important, and we should never exchange life for anything. My other issue is that the MPP is sounding, permit my saying, incongruous when they argue based on time, and they've not done their primaries in Nkoko, in Bekwai, in Bekwai, and even in...
He's making the argument that if you say that there's no time, then you already have constituencies that you have not...
It's not a new
But if time is of essence, and that you need time is of essence, then for your conduct to be credible, you must be seen to have had all these primaries. If they are also committed, I would direct that all their aspirants on the ground who are campaigning should also cease their campaign with immediate effect. The MPP aspirants
for the new constituencies.
Yes, the new constituencies who are campaigning should also cease campaigning with immediate effect.
Are you saying for a fact that they are campaigning?
Yes, they are campaigning. Last but not the least.
We don't even have candidates there.
The aspirants, those who are aspiring to be your candidates, they are campaigning. Last but not the least, I think that the judiciary, of course, has a role to play. There are multiple issues before our eminent juries as we speak now. The ones bordering on injunction, the ones bordering on annulment of even the 30 new constituencies that were created previously, and the ones that are also to ensure that the 45 new ones are not added to the 230. All these matters will have to be settled. My only advice is that law is not just something that stands in isolation. It's also a tool for development. And so in interpretation of these laws, I will only urge that the purposive approach is adapted towards it.
All right.
Last but not the least, I will passionately appeal.
I'm smiling at your reference to purposive approach.
I will passionately appeal to President Kufuor that he has disappointed me on this particular subject in terms of the linkage that he drew between the creation of the 45 new constituencies and the possible violent outcome of the December 7, 2012 elections.
Thank you very much, Omani Buama. You're also listening to us on Lolonyo 93.3 FM in the Volta region. That is in Hohoi, to be specific. Rashid Purple has left us, and we have been joined in his place by Samuel George. He is a member of government's communication team. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
All right, and I wish to let you also know that you can watch the full episode of Wild Ghana investigative documentary by Tiger Eye in collaboration with Joy News on Multi TV. Wild Ghana airs tonight at 10 p.m. on Joy News on Multi TV. It will also be streamed live on www.multitvworld.com/streams and on myjoyonline.com. You need to see that video. And once again, thanks to Anas Armeyao, Anas, and Multi TV team. Now, the Joy News team. Thank you. Okay. Now we move on to the next subject. President John Mahama, you must be familiar now about his policy statement. He spoke about a number of issues, and he used the words "I have directed," "I have ordered," and so on and so forth. Okay, we would want to take listen to him shortly, and then we'll come and deal with his policy statement.
Government devoid of corruption. This government will ensure that the taxes of Ghanaians, donor funds, and all resources held in trust by us for the people of Ghana are used judiciously and effectively in order to better the lot of the ordinary Ghanaian. All forms of corruption and wastage of public resources will be confronted by government, from the payment of government monies to persons and institutions who do not deserve them, to the misuse of government assets by officials of state. Certain judicial processes against government has occasioned significant state resources having to be paid out to those who have initiated those processes. While legitimate debts of the state must be paid, it would appear that in some instances payments have been made in circumstances that were all the facts known, those payments should not have happened. This is a problem that has cut across different administrations. I'm directing the Attorney General to ensure that no payment on account of judgment debts above a certain amount are made without clearance from Cabinet, as has already been decided. Our safeguards in this respect include not only the investigative machinery to look quickly and rigorously into any report of corruption, but also the judiciary, which must have credibility in the eyes of all citizens and not be seen as a part of the problem. I'm aware of the pronouncements of the Chief Justice has made in this regard, and I'm confident that all members of such an esteemed institution as the judiciary will uphold their honor. As President, I'm absolutely committed to addressing these aberrations in our national system of payments. In this regard, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General is requested to take action on the following immediately. Ensure that all monies paid to persons and institutions who do not deserve them are retrieved through all legal means at the disposal of the state. Create a channel for those with genuine cases for redress in situations where they have dealt with government as a business partner to be able to petition government in case of any disagreements. I've also decided to appoint a sole commissioner to thoroughly examine the judgment debt and negotiated settlements conundrum and recommend for immediate implementation.
All right, so that is the President John Dramani Mahama, and well, he spoke about a whole lot of things, covering almost every sector of the economy, education, agriculture, and giving directives and making orders and giving timelines, 1 week, 3 weeks, and we have just 3 months to the elections. Omani Bwama.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think that the President had earlier promised to engage the citizenry, and he's lived up to his promise. The encounter was a very healthy one. We need to open up the democratic space. We are progressing since 1993 as a country, and any attempt to constrict the democratic space must be vehemently opposed. And that is how come his background as a communications person. I'm sure there are exciting times for the media and the larger Ghanaian populace ahead, particularly when he's elected as president come December 7, 2012, inshallah.
We have heard comments from critics who say there was no policy in that statement.
You see, that is why perhaps you are appropriately describing them as critics. There are two different types of criticisms. You have constructive criticism, and we have the other one, the D one. What I would say is that, look, he was very calm, collegial, very, very clear, and true to his character, he communicated very well. In touching on the economy, he touched on several aspects. The organic linkages between overseas development assistance and even the revenue that we are generating from the oil and gas sector as of now. The fact that once the development partners are labeling you as a hydrocarbon-rich country, then it means that the assistance that they will be offering may even be going down, or even the loans that you will be applying for because of our lower middle income status. You will have to go for much more higher interest rates and all that. Within this space, the NDC government has been able to implement the single spine pay policy, which he duly recognized.
And says that they should finish that by end of the year.
Yeah, which he duly recognized the efforts of the Kufuor administration in terms of commencing it. And that is good news for workers of Ghana.
So take that for example. He's giving a timeline of the end of the year. And we know that as we speak, there are pharmacists, government pharmacists on strike who are saying that, migrate us immediately. And it doesn't look like we are getting any, headway.
So what you will realize is that we are in September, we have October, November, December. Unfortunately, what you will not hear people say is that, and I will cite 3 examples or even 4 so that no category of workers will blame me as I singling them out. For instance, you will not hear civil and local government service workers come out to say that, look, for budget analysts, as of 2008, they were being paid 467.33 Ghana cedis. But with a single spine, 2012, they are being paid 1,112.29 Ghana cedis. You will not hear assistant budget officer of the same civil local government service saying that as of 2008, we were being paid 266.50 Ghana cedis. But as of now, it has jumped from 266.50 to 717.59. And the graphs are all very, very steep up there with sharp gradients. You go to the Ghana Education Service, you find out that principal superintendent as of 2008, 495.75 Ghana cedis, jumping to 1,136.75. That is 4.95 million old Ghana cedis, all the way to 11.1 plus million Ghana cedis. Fast forward, there again, the curves are very, very steep with very sharp gradients. You move to the health sector. Medical officer 2008, 1,202.42 Ghana cedis. That is about 12.02 million old Ghana cedis.
You were also a practicing medical officer. How much were you earning then?
It was around the same thing.
Around the same thing.
This is factual.
And you see, I've heard those who say that this is such an unfair exercise that you put out the salaries of civil servants out there.
That is why I ensured fairness by not just singling out one group. Because otherwise, how fair is it to also tie government's hand behind a government and then be pounding that this group of workers are on strike? That group, they are also on strike, without also talking about the success story of the single spine pay policy. If you are talking about fairness, if you want to go to equity, let's wash our hands clean, perhaps with Parazone or with a very good detergent.
So we should be telling the taxpayer how much ministers and all those people that should be public knowledge.
No problem at all. And in fact, when I saw this at 3,000 something, I told Okujeto that, look, any day that I exit, I will not be worse off. I'll be cool. And look, talk to them privately. We are not saying that in a matter of 3.5 years, we have turned Ghana into paradise. But in terms of the single spine pay policy, this government has done very, very well. Still to ensure the equity and so that you will not be blamed and all that, you can look at university lecturers, senior lecturer, 2008.
Some of them are actually angry that you are doing this exercise. You see, because it's been done elsewhere.
You see. So I ask, how equitable is it? How fair is it to tie government's hand, be bombarding government that pharmacists are up in arms? Meanwhile, as of now, government has migrated over 98 to 99% of eye workers. But none of these eye bodies will come out. And it can be understood, because if they came out, they may be accused of becoming spokespersons of government. So it is legitimate that they will not come out. Is a sunlight campaign putting these things out something too difficult to bear? I don't think so. Senior lecturer, 1,875 Ghana cedis, jumping all the way to 4,811.13 Ghana cedis. This is what we have been able to achieve. But sometimes you may have misunderstandings, disagreements, and all that with some sections of the labor system, as we are having with the pharmacists. I believe that with the President's directive to the Wages and Salaries Commission, this is something that they will work at and ensure that by the end of this year, all workers must be enjoying from the single spine pay policy. Again, the taxpayer, who must know legitimately what the monies are being used for, is also being asked by the President to be served well by civil servants and public sector workers, because it is the taxpayers' contribution that are used to pay us. And that is how come he drew in the Public Services Commission in terms of performance and monitoring and all that. And if I remember correctly, he said that in a quarterly manner, there should be a certain system of reporting and all that for us to be able to test the output of the public sector and the civil service in terms of how we are serving our clients, and our clients being the larger Ghanaian populace and other foreigners who may fall.
The other question, Dr. Maniboma, is the essence of that exercise of the policy statement 3 months to the elections. Yeah. What is it supposed to do? We have heard of the directives, but what is the effect of the directives when the people who are in those various sectors of the economy are already mandated to perform those functions anyway? So, for example, if you say, I have instructed the various departments and agencies in the health sector to ensure the following. For example, A, that the available medical personnel arrive at post on time and deliver qualitative services to Ghanaians, treating everyone with dignity and respect. This is what they should do. If they don't do this, they should get out of the place.
Exactly. So this is what they should do. Most of them are doing it, I believe. Most of them are doing it. You just advertised something that a doctor, professional, what he subjected his clients through, but for the innovative works of a nurse, this I wouldn't have come out. That is in the private sector though. But is it wrong for him to ask for more? Do we expect him to spend all the 4 months at his disposal as a president just to be campaigning? I'm sure he would have been criticized.
The question is that if the ministers who are there, the directors at the various departments who are there, if they are not doing this, then they don't deserve the salaries that they earn.
That is why he's drawing a strong linkage between enhanced salary and productivity. He's saying that on the production possibility frontier, let us move higher because you have been stimulated. Again, he comes to...
we should have time to deal from one point to the other. Okay. Sami is here. He will take a bit of that aspect as well. Okay. Let me move on now to...
so I've dealt with just one economy.
Yeah, you've dealt with just one.
Okay, I was going to go to...
But you are talking to
yes, you've done that.
Nana, you parasitized
now wait,
Nana,
and you see, there are very clear policy statements and directives and instructions in this document, and yet you have the NPP saying, where's the policy? Too little, too late. Okay. Seeking to, rubbish what has been done.
2 quick points. My brother here, Maniboyama, kept talking about NPP going to do elections in Nkoko. The Nkoko constituency, they are already, I'm using my time. There are structures.
Oh no, but let's have a structured discussion, because I wanted to make a statement, but once the host directed that we had moved to the policy, I decided to respect and obey.
No, I follow your money, but in this respect, you made a specific reference to Nkoko constituency that they haven't had elections.
Okay.
So if he wants to use the time he had to make a reaction,
he had an
I think that he
opportunity
deserves that.
in the second round, which he spoke for more than 4 minutes to respond to that.
I think you referred to that. You were the last to speak.
No, I even made reference to that in my first submission. He had his first submission and the second one. The second one,
Please allow him a minute of his time to do so.
But then I will also use 4 seconds of my other time to also deal with the same subject.
Nana, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samson. So in Nkoko and the other places, there are already constituencies, there are already structures in place. When you go and do new constituencies, you find out that if you take, say, Nkoko and you divide it into 2, you find out all the executives will be on one side. You now have to go and put in new executives and new structures so you can elect candidates. So it's not the same. Now, but the quick last point is, you know, this gazetting and laying, you don't lay an instrument in Parliament with no name, no number, and then go to
You're back on that one.
Yeah, because it's an important point.
I think
Okay, now let me
you're
go on.
using the time I'm giving.
Okay.
Yeah.
The common sense thing is to go and gazette it, get the number, and then you lay it in Parliament.
We have moved
Okay,
on.
now that I've made that point, let me deal quickly with the propaganda. I mean, the propaganda is so funny because it's so easy to deal with. Omanibama is telling us civil servants, quoting all kinds of figures. As we speak, civil servants are going on strike. You see, the propaganda doesn't even have any relationship with reality. As we speak, civil servants are going on strike.
So what are they asking for?
The same salaries and single spine, the same matters.
Which single servant?
So, you don't know?
Which single servant? Civil servant?
As we speak, look, talking about teachers, they've done hey.
They're not going on
GES,
There is.
not. He doesn't know. Why would he know? Because he doesn't favor
Teachers
him.
are not going on strike. They
No, as
have
we
raised
speak.
demands. Don't say they are going on strike.
Please.
We have the
Are we
government
going to-
pharmacists,
are
you
we
have
going to have a-
the government pharmacists, you have the
They are not
local
civil
government,
servants.
local
Pharmacists are
government.
not civil.
They're not civil
workers.
servants. Pharmacists are not civil servants.
As
Let's
we
correct
speak,
him on that.
civil servants are going on strike. If somebody says he doesn't know, then he better wake up to the cocoa and smell it. As we speak, teachers have come out to say that the government is lying about their conditions. Officially, the nuts, the nagrats, they say that what the government is doing is a lot of propaganda.
they
They've
contested
issued
this?
statements. Out of embarrassment, the government is not even able to withdraw.
So do you believe them, or you choose to believe the facts as Mani has
These are the
presented them?
facts.
Well, listen, these are not some itinerant teachers.
I can let you have it.
NAGRAT, which is the Union of Graduate Teachers. NAT, which is the... So these are not some... They're saying
this is
that...
how much their salaries have
Is this-
increased.
Well, so he's telling the teachers that he knows better
Okay,
than
no, sorry, but you
themselves.
move on.
That Omanibo Ama is telling the teachers that they don't know that they're having it better. He knows better than them.
Complete
The
populism.
teachers are being populist. You know, it's total insult.
Populism. Speak to the facts.
Please.
These are the figures.
Have you
Are
found
you
your pen?
contesting these figures?
Oh, I don't have time to contest your figures.
So if
I'm
you are
just-
not contesting
Please,
the figures, what are you contesting?
I'm saying to you that the teachers are saying you are lying. They've issued statements to that effect. Unless you dispute
That I'm lying.
Unless
I
you
spoke here.
Omani,
I have not heard any
what is
teacher
happening?
speak against this.
Omani, he's
So where is
saying
he
that
coming
he's
from?
aware of what you have put out, but his position ought to be made known.
Okay.
Now, teachers,
That is very sophisticated.
NAGRAT, they've come out to say that this government is lying about their conditions of service. They've put it on record. As we speak, civil servants are going to go on strike. You see, the propaganda has no... Look, I read about the president going to Burkina Faso and promising to give them electricity. In this country, there's load shedding.
From the Jubilee field.
In this country,
Gas.
there's load shedding.
From the
You
Jubilee
haven't
field.
solved... Can I finish? You haven't solved the energy problem in Ghana. And then Ghanaians will read that their president is going to give electricity to some people. You don't understand it. You simply don't understand it. When Umanibuama was participating in strike actions by doctors, didn't he know that doctors' salaries have been enhanced? And yet he was participating in strikes by doctors. So some of the propaganda is totally unnecessary because it doesn't achieve anything. Now, you go on to the, before I go on to the John Mahama speech, look, the Afro Barometer, I'd just like to bring it to your attention. They say that 63% of Ghanaians say that the economy is very bad or bad. 63% of Ghanaians. That's what they are saying.
A sample size of what?
No, I'm just giving what Afro Barometer.
Yeah, I just want to draw attention to
But I
that.
need
Yeah.
to know the credibility, the
Well,
research, and methodology, and all that.
kindly allow
If
me
you
my
say
way.
that
Thank
they
you.
are not credible, that is your
methodology and the credibility of the work. That is what I'm talking about.
Can I go?
So sample
Please
size
go
is
on,
important
please go
in research.
Afro Barometer have said that 63% of Ghanaians say that the economy is very bad. That's what they've said. 58% of Ghanaians say that their living conditions are very bad. That is what they have put on record. If somebody says their sample size is not correct, that is that person's. Now you take
Are those the only figures they put out?
You can put out yours.
Because I know they said 78%
Please
have
get ready. Please
in
get
the
ready.
new in their
You'll have
standards
your-
getting
you'll-
better.
you'll have your
They-
10.
they are- actually, I also have hope because next year we'll change government. And next year we'll change government, so I have hope that things will get better. That there is hope.
Go ahead.
Coming.
Go ahead.
But you interrupted. Now I say I should go ahead.
Go ahead. Continue. You articulate yourself and laughing.
If you want me to go ahead, why do you interrupt?
I didn't interrupt you. I was just asking you to tell Ghanaians the full scale of what Afro Barometer
And I
said.
told you, George, that you'll have your 10.
Yeah.
So I'll
please-
wait for him to.
Nana,
Go
move
ahead.
on.
I don't understand.
Nana,
these things.
just move on, yeah.
Okay. Now, you listen to the president's statement. I mean, like you said, directives, instructions, orders. There were over 150 directives and instructions and orders. Over 150. There are about 112 days to the end of the year. So, and there are over 150 directives. Count of the 23-page present, count the directives and orders and instructions and so on.
24.
Over 150. And there are 110 or 111 days left for the end of the year. So I was struck by that. Now, unlike the president saying that he would like to engage political leaders in charting the way forward and all of that. No, it's a nice thing. I remember President Kufuor was quite firmly on that course. He would send gifts to leaders of political parties, other political parties, give them national honors or offer them national honors, appointed leaders of other political parties to positions in his government. I remember the flag bearer of the CPP, Hagan, Christine Doom, all of them served under Kufuor's government. DCs were appointed from other political parties. Ambassadors were appointed from political parties. He supported the appointments of Spio Gabra, Ibn Chambers, and so on. So it's a trail that has been laid by President Kufuor. And I'll be very happy if any Ghanaian leader wants to continue it. Now, the president also talked about the inflation has been held down and that food prices have been stable. We disagree totally. Food prices stable? Just take a look at the prices of staple foods in the last 3 years. As we speak, we are heavily importing tomatoes and maize. Heavily in a country where 65% of our people are engaged in food farming. We are heavily importing tomato
So you
and maize.
ended that
And
note for me.
oh,
Yes, you have.
you mean I've used all my time?
Yes, you have.
Nana,
Okay.
you are
Okay.
concluding
Now,
that-
let me just
He
conclude
says
that.
you have used all your time.
But you see, these interruptions. Look, the president talked about promoting local content and Ghanaian enterprise.
I was expecting you to
Let
end
me-
on that
okay,
note,
let me
on the
just- let me-
point
okay,
that
let
you
me
were
end on
raising.
this. Look,
Yeah.
Chinese people
You are abusing.
are repairing ECG meters in Ghana. They are digging graves in this country. The last time the president went to Cape Coast, he said he was going to build a market for them. They are now going to do feasibility. And he has some Chinese by his side. This is the way he's going to promote Ghanaian enterprise and local content.
I'll move on to Samuel George, and I think we can do it this way. Let's shift the gear to his talk about education.
Beautiful. That's exactly where I was going.
Specific issues. He spoke about education, and I want to quote him briefly in page 16, paragraph 63. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear in my vision. I believe as do most Ghanaians, that education is a right and must be free. Millions of Ghanaians, especially from deprived families, got the benefit of fee-free education during the First Republic, and today they are contributing meaningfully to the development of this republic, and so on. The suggestion is that he certainly appears to have appreciated what Nana Akufo-Addo has been preaching all along.
Well, the point must be made here, something, and let me say a very good morning to your viewers and listeners, that I would also want to stress that the president is a very succinct communicator. When you read that statement, he says millions of Ghanaians, especially from deprived families, got the benefit of fee-free education, not free education. When you say free education, it borders very closely at this point in time on going into the realms of absurdity, as my brother Kukubaku will say. Okay, because when you say free, then we're talking about the vehicle the child is going to sit in from his house to school, the dress he's going to put on his back, the exercise books, the tuition, the accommodation, feeding. Look, we are told that with, as per Akufo-Addo's IEA encounter, that 36 cedis per term will be enough to pay for every Ghanaian child to have computer science labs, to have a feeding, to have boarding, which clearly is not real. If you look at the substance of what His Excellency said, is in paragraph 64. He says, our argument is not about free secondary education. That vision has already been captured by the drafters of our 1992 constitution. Now, let's not forget, Akufo-Addo refused to be part of the drafting process. They boycotted that process. The 1992 constitution, which speaks about free, the NPP. You see,
there was no NPP at the time.
Very well. The Progressive Party, the UP people, antecedents of the
let's have
NPP.
a serious discussion.
You see, the drafters of the 1992 constitution, market women, shoemakers, they saw the vision in 1992, which Akufo-Addo is now catching in 2012, that our education in this country must be progressively free. He says what the discussion should be is about what is practical and pragmatic at this stage of our development. And if you look at this stage of Ghana's educational sector, look, I have in my hands here the 2011-2012 bill for Holy Child Senior High School, okay, in Cape Coast. And the amount to be paid is 440 Ghana cedis. That is 4.4 million. This is excluding tuition. Excluding tuition. 4.4 million.
The load that the Nana Akufo-Addo wants to take off the...
He says he's going to pay 36 Ghana cedis
a term.
A term. And this is what Holy Child is billing, 440. So if Akufo-Addo is voted for and he implements his free SHS and he pays 36 Ghana cedis to the Holy Child administration, what happens to the remaining 404 Ghana cedis? Who pays for that? Is it not the parent of the child? Or you are going to ask Holy Child to water down their standard to meet Akufo-Addo's 36 Ghana cedis? Now let me ask you a question. Akufo-Addo, he started his education in which school? He started his education somewhere, if I'm right, Government Boys High School, and then went to Kimbu. Why was he moved from there to Lansing School, which today you pay £27,000 in the UK, from free education? You understand me? You see, let's come here.
So what's the argument in making reference to private institutions?
The argument I'm making here is that the talk about free, APAM Senior High School, 2011-2012, that their fee, excluding tuition, is 271 Ghana cedis. Now, I want Nana Akomia and Nana Addo Akufo-Addo to explain to Ghanaians how with 36 Ghana cedis we can still get the same quality of education. The problem of Ghana's education today is access and quality. The woman in Fanchirenko is ready to sell her wrapper to ensure her child goes to school. It is not about.
But when you make reference, in respect of what the president says about the constitutional provision for free education,
sure.
Article 25, 1C, for example, it says that higher education shall be made equally accessible to all on the basis of capacity by every appropriate means. I think I was looking for B rather. Secondary education in its different forms, including technical and vocational education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education.
If you read the constitution, the first thing is generally available.
If this is what the president acknowledges, which you say Akufo-Addo did not see it in good time enough, I think that the implication or the obligation will be that our government should implement this particular provision.
The
so
Constitution.
the argument is that what Nana-Addo is doing is seeking to implement the Constitution.
No, what Akufo-Addo is suggesting we do as a country is to build the roof before we dig the foundation. The Constitution itself says that education at secondary level must be generally available. Today, you have in excess of almost 1.8 million children in basic school. You have only 720,000 slots available in secondary education. What happens to the rest of the children when you say let's do a let my people go kind of policy to get into their senior high schools? The point must be made that, and that is what the president says in the last part of paragraph 64. He says, my plan is to accelerate access at the basic and tertiary level by ensuring that we build more schools, improve quality, teacher training, and the facilities that promote healthy learning. My point, which I would make forcefully here, is that first and foremost, we must look at how to improve access to education. When access is improved, quality is improved. As Omani has rightly stated, teachers have been incentivized, or they've been given incentives to improve their quality. We provide the classrooms. You see the kind of classrooms we're putting up for our children today. We have eradicated over 1,250 classes and schools on the trees. These children now have quality. We are building more, and the president at Legon made the point clearly that he was going to implement a 200 model school policy, okay, in districts. By the time you bring in 200 senior high schools, you can imagine the number of children.
The argument is that it can be done at the basic but not at the secondary.
No. The argument of the NDC in general, if I understand clearly, is that we will progressively get to free education, but the basics and the structures must be put in place. Look at what happened when the irresponsible 4-year policy was implemented without the requisite planning. We had school children sleeping in science labs with chemicals. We had children sleeping everywhere. You understand me? In dining halls and all. There is the need for us to put the requisite structures. When the structures are put well, it is a responsibility of government to think about the wherewithal and the welfare of our children. We must act with responsibility, because that is what government is all about. And that's what the government is saying, that we would ensure that the structures are put in place. When we have access, when we have good access to education, when the quality is improved, we can gradually make it free. When every child, because what is the essence of making it free today, when majority of the children would not have schools to attend?
Is it my understanding that you believe in the freeness of it, but that the timing is
as
not
espoused in the 1992 Constitution? Yes, I do.
Progressively free, but someone would ask the question, that's been since 1992.
Well, and that is why gradually since 1992, the access to education has clearly been improved. It is not the state of our education in 92 in terms of access and quality as it was that it is today. Clearly, we have progressively improved the system, and we will get to that position the Constitution wants us to get to.
You are still on Newsfile on Joy News, that's on your multi-TV, and also on Joy 99.7 FM. And I'll move on now to Abdul Malik Okubako Jr. Now, the policy statement, I want us to, if you wouldn't mind, can we look at the aspects about his promise on what to do on judgment debts?
Well, yes, that is actually my focus. But
actually, I've appointed him as the sole commissioner. With effect from Thursday. 3 days ago.
You have nominated.
No. Now I'm confirming the appointment. Now I'm confirming the appointment.
Is there sufficient documents to be able to trace to the history?
The sole commissioner.
The deputy minister for youth.
Before that.
Okay, thank you.
This is
the sole
the
commissioner.
November 30th, 1995 edition of the Daily Graphic. And the headline is Free Basic Education for All.
Emphasis basic.
Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
House approves plan. 350 million needed within 10 years for implementation. I would read. The story was by C.S. Boabing. Parliament yesterday endorsed the government's program to provide free compulsory universal basic education within the next 10 years. An estimated 350 million is to be spent on the program within the 10-year period. Winding up for the debate on the program, Mr. Harry Sawyer, Education Minister, told the House that the government will remain a major source of financing the program in collaboration with donor agencies. The provision of free, compulsory, universal basic education is a constitutional requirement. The minister underlined the government's commitment to the success of the program because it considers basic education as the fundamental building blocks of the country. Consequently, no effort will be spared to ensure that free, quality basic education is given to all children of school-going age from basic 1 through 9 within the period. The NDC's own 1996 constitution, a manifesto, and says, and I'm quoting just a relevant portion on education. The program for free, compulsory, and universal basic education was initiated and will be pursued to meet the target for its full achievement. Quality and relevance of education are a vital part of the program and not merely getting all children into school by the target date. Clearly, the NDC's pledge to make education accessible to more children has been kept. How many years gone since 1995? How many years gone since 1992? And this constitutional requirement that we all now say we are committed to, what has happened to it? We've just been expanding access. That's what we've been told. It's true, there's been an expansion of access to education over the years, over the last 20 years. But this constitutional requirement, basic, I agree. Even that, we haven't matched it. We've been marking time. We're proud of that. Is that not a reflection of a certain failure in our system, in a declared commitment that has been captured in the Constitution? So for me, and indeed as a socialist-minded political activist, I'm instinctively for free education at all levels. But I'm saying that, look, this is a country that once upon a time did have free education. Because of disruptions and interruptions of our own development agenda, including the political regime, we've lost that in a way. We come to Fourth Republic and give ourselves a constitutional commitment, which we are unable to fulfill. In spite of the fact that we went to Parliament, Parliament was seized with the agenda. Some $350 million was prescribed as the financial outlay. And 2012, we are sitting here and debating the issue. My point is this. Look, it is only when you have power that, of course, you can operationalize your commitment and your vision. So out there, we have a contest. There is a political party, in fact, 3 political parties, as far as I know. The PPP, the CPP, and the NPP, who appear to be advocating for free education. They are. I'm not too sure of PNC yet. I haven't read their manifesto. May they forgive me if indeed they also have the safeguarding of the compromise orientation. I wouldn't be surprised if indeed they do have. Then we have the NDC that is insisting that even though they are committed to this constitutional requirement, it is not yet time to actualize it, and that we must go step by step. Is that not so? I said the people out there must judge. The one who wants to be bold and seize the opportunity to actualize the vision that is in this constitution, perhaps must have the opportunity to be tested. Because all we've been doing as a nation is to mark time.
But is it not a valid and you call it a legitimate expectation to think that if we have been marking time and struggling to be able to fulfill the first part of it, we should make sure that we have been able to do that meaningfully first before we move on to secondary?
For how long have we been making this point you are making? That's all we've been saying. Let's be pragmatic, let's be prudent, let's be realistic. And we've been so for 20-something years. We've continued to be prudent, realistic, and pragmatic. And that has led to us marking time. And I'm saying, so the philosophy is simple. Look, the idea is simple. Parties are out there. It's a contest of ideas.
Certainly.
And you must give people hope and tell them that this is how I'll actualize the idea. The electorate are the final arbiters, my candid opinion. And I'm appealing to the electorate to take a look at the stance of all the parties and the candidates on this matter and make a judgment. Because this country cannot continue to mark time by being prudent, realistic, and pragmatic. I rest my case there. But you gave me a subject matter, and that's my favorite subject matter.
No, he's not exhausted. He's not exhausted his time.
Okay.
Very limited time to deal with that.
Okay. Well, this will keep going, so I really don't mind. But I think we had time. I thought we have some 30 minutes.
You have very limited time to finish on that one.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. The judgment death matter. For me, the president's presentation, I have nothing against it. Here was a president talking, not a candidate. Had a format to outline what he would do within 4 months. That's fair. I'm not going to raise heads about that at all. All I want to do is to police the implementation, monitor and evaluate the implementation, and see whether indeed the commitments that have been made in that thing would work. Relative to judgment debts, there are few things the president must quickly do. See, Woyome is in court, so they are constrained. But I remember Martin Amidu indicating that he wrote a letter to the former president, our late former president, where he mentioned some names. I am not too sure that any of those names or personalities have appeared in court or are facing any court matter. Administratively, I believe the president can take a look at that letter and see what role those people played. They can be dealt with in terms of internal disciplinary measures. Whatever, it's not in court. Government set up a mediation, one-man mediation, and ended up paying the monies that they didn't deserve. You see, the president made a significant point that if certain facts were not available, which led to payments of some undeserved monies. It's in his statement. Whatever, we can get our money as quickly as possible. It's not yet in court. Africa Automobile.
But Martin Amidu, in his capacity as a private citizen, is in court, and it includes the attacking whatever.
Whatever, that is the Woyome case where he has attached them. I'm talking of whatever going for its own money, fair share, share of the so-called contract that was abrogated, if you recall. That's distinct from what is in court. We should retrieve that money. Africa Automobile, we were told by the Deputy Minister of Information, my own brother Okujutu Ablakwa, that government was in negotiations with them and they were demanding a certain 1.5 billion. Government should terminate that negotiations immediately. Africa Automobile has the choice to continue pursuing the case in court. Those gallopers that we took out from them belatedly, we must return it to them. They have no case. The president must assess the Auditor General's report on Africa Automobile, the BNI report on Africa Automobile, the Serious Fraud Office report on Africa Automobile, and read it, perhaps give it to the sole commissioner. And the sole commissioner will come to the conclusion, I tell you, that Africa Automobile has no case.
I see.
There are many, but of course, I know we don't have time.
You should do a memo to the president.
Yes, so
You have to do a memo to the president.
on that point, and Kokubako's endorsement of the sole commissioner, a few text messages here, I'll run through them quickly, and then we'll move on to the next subject. We are hard pressed for time. Now, Mariwan writes from Tamale that the anecdote which preceded Nana Addo's brilliant and incisive speech at the IEA encounter had really demonstrated the distressful state of the nation under the reign of the NDC, i.e. downward spiral of the cedi, soaring prices of goods and services. Fojo writes, the statement by John Mahama to retrieve all monies paid illegally is rather uncalled for. Where was he when all these judgment debts were paid? Eyes are watching. Schiffman in Atonso writes, it's obvious that President Mahama said nothing new that would make us give him our votes. Nana Addo is the visionary man Ghana deserves as president in 2012. You didn't identify yourself. You say in 2000, as a trained teacher, I was taking 250 Ghana cedis. Out of this money, I could buy 34 bags of cement. Today, I am taking a little bit to you are taking about 600, and out of this money, you say, I can only manage with 24 bags of cement. So, am I better off under this government or worse off? This one too, you don't identify yourself. You say, it is absolutely wrong to announce public and civil servant salaries on radio or TV. The proper thing to do is to indicate the proportionate increase in salaries. Thank you for your text messages. And we go to our very final issue. My guests have been asking that we should be able to take a minute or two to deal with the President's policy statement, but I think that we've run out of time, so we'll go straight to the Yabuatin-Jan tape. And I'm sure that you are familiar with that tape by now. On that tape, which he has admitted to be the author, even though we have heard Sedun Ketia and some others suggest that parts of that tape have been doctored, he is heard on that tape saying indeed that the party was going to recruit loyalists and put them in the special forces of the Ghana Army. He spoke about giving them national security identity cards and that they were going to be deployed for the purposes of the 2012 elections. They were going to collect some information, and then that project was going to be financed by the Finance Ministry. Well, I've heard Dr. Kobna Dufo suggest that that is ridiculous. I'll start with you on this one, Nana Kumia. You say that as a party that this is not making a mountain out of a molehill. It is a serious national security threat and ought to be dealt with decisively.
Absolutely. Now, just we are having this.
No, I'm asking whether we all have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so that we can know how you structure.
I'm monitoring the
time.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay. Let me take 2 seconds to deal with this issue about the cost of the free secondary school, because it's very important.
Nana,
my brother
Nana,
here said 36 cities.
Nana, I think we need to move on. I gave you that for the first
Samson,
time.
I will have to deal with it.
That factually your presidential candidate did not say 32.
Now
36.
36.
He didn't say 36.
What did he say?
78 million
a year
divided by the total number of the students divided by the number of students. It will put
108 per annum.
You see what they
So he didn't say so.
No, he said 78 million.
He didn't say 36 cities.
I'm coming.
per student.
78 million
Okay.
divided by 720,000 students will give you 108 Ghana cedis per annum, which is 36
Nanado
cedis
did
per
not
term.
say 36 cities per term per student.
I just worked the maths for
Did
Nanado.
he say so?
He didn't say
no.
that directly, but if you do the
This is your
calculation,
calculation.
which
Fine.
is right.
Thank you very much. I think we can move on now. Let's move on.
Let me just explain it to them. 2 seconds. You see, you come to 108. They have divided the 108 by 3. What they've done is wrong. You have to multiply the 108 by 3 because the 108 is for one term.
So Nanado lied to us at IEA.
No, he told you September to December.
Nanado said for the 2013-2014 academic year.
Move on.
Yeah.
Did I
Except
bring
that
okay.
Akufo-Addo lied to us at IEA.
Let's move on.
So that is a
No,
fallacy.
please let
that will
him
not
clarify
work.
that point.
Now-
Did Akufo-Addo lied to us at IEA because he said 2013-2014 academic year.
Can I go on?
Go on now.
Now
Did I bring
this
this
Jan
document?
Boatin matter, Samson, is an absolute scandal. You see, that is why people are saying that all of us should defend the process, should defend the ballot box because of things like this. Here you have a situation where the national organizer of the ruling party is able to get party supporters and go and infiltrate them into the security services. He is procuring security ID cards for them. He is collecting money. He himself goes to the Ministry of Finance to collect money for this operation. He is going to procure fast getaway cars to these people so that when they go and cause the mayhem and there's trouble, they can get away quickly. And if the plot backfires, he is telling them that he will blame it on the NPP in this country. This is what our public money is being used for. That civil servants are going on strike. We are being told that the government ministers don't know. And this is what the money is being used. People go to the Ministry of Finance. They said that the people are going to be used to gather information. If you are going to send people to gather information, you go and collect money from the Ministry of Finance for them. You procure high capacity vehicles so they can get away quickly. You will blame their operations on NPP and that they should go and cause mayhem. This is the state of our democracy. It is an absolute scandal. All right-thinking Ghanaians should condemn it. That if this thing persists, our democracy is going to be fraught with danger and is totally undeserving of Ghana 54 or 55 years or so after independence.
National Security says he's on his own. The things he's talking about, they do not know about. Dr. Kwabena Dufo says, look, this guy is ridiculous. Does that mean anything?
Immediately, the gentleman should resign. Because he's made statements about national security. He's made statements about the Ministry of Finance. He's still there. And everybody says, oh, you are lying. It's not true. But the man is still there. What are we being told, Samson? This is how governance has been reduced to in this country. And so people must be on their guard. Because the ruling party is going to organize supporters, give them national security identification, give them high performance vehicles to cause mayhem. It's been on tape. I had wished that if we had time, you would have played the tape so Ghanaians will listen. It's an absolute shame to our government.
A lot of people have heard that tape. Thank you very much, Nana Kumia. Now, I'll come to you, Samuel George. There's been a call on the president, on the party, to discipline Yabuatinja.
Yeah. First and foremost, let me just state this for clarity, and I'm reading from My Joy Online, Joy FM's own news portal. Let me read Akufo-Addo's own full speech at the IE encounters. Fellow citizens, I know numbers can be boring, but these are important numbers. The additional cost of providing free senior high school will be around 1% of Ghana's GDP. The cost of providing free secondary school education, which includes tuition, boarding, feeding, and all the other charges for the 2013-2014 academic year, is estimated at 0.1% of our GDP. This translates into some 78 million Ghana cedis. Samson, I rest my case. Academic year.
It has 3 terms.
If they're telling us an academic year is 1 term,
It's 1 term.
then Akufo-Addo doesn't know what he's talking about with the free SHS.
Have you read the manifesto?
I am referring.
Okay, you're not interested. If
Akufo-Addo lied to Ghanaians at the IE.
So let's move on. Let's move on.
Beautiful. Now, coming to this issue, something once again.
The call on the party, the call on the president, because he's also a presidential staffer.
I think the calls are, look, there is no moral turpitude for Nana Kumia and any other person in the MPP to call on the president on this issue. What was their position? Did they not give Kennedy Japan a hero's welcome for his irresponsible statement? As far as I'm concerned, this is a politician who got carried away when he met with party people. But something, the substance of this for me is that
this is more than a politician getting carried away.
I'm coming to my substantive issue. I'm surprised that this is a topic we are discussing on Joy FM's Newsfile.
Why are you?
Because I have heard Joy FM repeatedly play this tape. Yet, as part of your editorial policy, and not just Joy FM, a number of TV stations, when a sitting member of parliament was captured on tape speaking about putting dead bodies in the Volta region, as part of your editorial policy, you refused to play those tapes. When a sitting member of parliament was caught on tape talking to the sitting chief justice about manipulating our judiciary, Joy FM refused, and other stations refused to play that tape on editorial policy. When Kennedy Japan statements were made, I'm a Ghana. My wife is an Ewe. That Ghans and Ewe should be killed by account. We were told that, and this was, in my opinion, very genocidal statements. We were told that as part of your editorial policy, they were inflammatory. Yet this one is not inflammatory enough. This is, you see, the double standards for me is sickening.
You find double standards in a gentleman who makes comments which are aired, and the next morning he admits to authoring them.
But Atacha has admitted to
at what point?
So it's about the time Atacha
I just want to know.
No, your editorial policy for me reeks of mischief. As far as I'm concerned, that's my personal opinion. You see, as far as I'm concerned, these are not issues which Ghanaians are not interested in. Yabuatinjan's tape. They're interested in which government is going to better their lives.
You're serious about that?
Very serious about that. You see, Nana Komia tries to paint a picture or through a text message you got. In 2008, an assistant economic planning officer earned 327 Ghana cedis. A bag of cement at that time was 10 Ghana cedis. It means he could have gotten 32 bags of cement. In 2012, he's earning 908 Ghana cedis, where a bag of cement is selling for 15 cedis. He will get 60 bags of cement. Which government is providing better?
Cement
better?
is not 15 cedis.
It depends on where you're buying from.
It is not 15
Right.
cedis.
You obviously you are buying KK for 1 CD. How will you buy cement
How will
for
you buy
15,
cement
for
15
15
CDs? I'm sure you are going to buy cement for 24 CDs. You see, the point should be clear here that look, your Boatin Jan's tape, as far as I'm concerned, we've had Kennedy Japong and other leading members of the NPP stand on political platforms and get carried away and pass very, very reckless comments, and they come back and apologize.
Kennedy Japan is in court.
Oh, so he didn't come back and apologize?
He's in
Public
court.
disorder
He's-
also.
clearly because of the statement, the
Public
statements he
disorder.
made.
Because it's serious.
The statement
It was so serious that government thought that he
see?
ought to be prosecuted for
because
genocide.
clearly he made genocide. Tell me what your Boatin Jan said here.
Treason. He was charged for treason.
Thank God you're a lawyer. Where is the treason in what your Boatin Jan said?
Well, if you want my opinion, I can tell you that.
No, that's what I'm asking. I want your opinion.
This is planning, conspiracy. Straightforward.
To do it. What action is treasonable?
Infiltrate the security is such a serious matter. You don't think so?
Well, the courts are going to ask you. I'm sure. You know, Actus Rea Mensah, does he have even what it takes to get national security ID card?
I understand you are. I understand you're undertaking a study.
Yes, I am.
You better.
And I'm aware. I'm aware
you
of the
better
court's
appraise
position.
yourself. You
The
better
court's-
appraise yourself with the
No, something. The court's-
inchoate nature of the crime.
Sure, but the court's position also on tapes. Look at what happened with the Tagore tape. When it went to the trial court convicted them. When it went to the appeal court, what did the appeal court say? See, the appeal court said it was empty bragging.
No, questions of admissibility are different from the substance of the tape.
There is
the
no
gentleman
court
has
that will hold-
admitted the
No.
content of the tape.
Something. No court will hold that somebody will say, I can go to the finance minister and the finance minister will give me money. When we know that the finance minister is not a disbursing officer. The finance minister does not hold cash in his office.
In his office.
So it is clear cut. No court will hold anybody responsible for that. It is as simple as me telling anybody that because I pay on Joy News, give me money and I will give you. I'll write a story for you. When I do not represent Joy, I don't have anything on Joy FM. It's empty bragging, and that is what this clearly is.
Well, Joy FM journalists don't take money for what they do. We are paid for our work.
No, say he.
I'm saying
Somebody
me,
says
myself.
he's going to give you money to write
All
a
right.
story here.
Now,
You
Kweku.
do
Yeah,
it.
my brother. Just looking at the page 22 of the president's policy statement or whatever it was, the section under Peace, Security, Discipline and Election 2012, paragraph 83. Fellow countrymen and men, the maintenance of the internal and external security of the nation is a prime area for my administration in this period leading up to the December elections. It is critical that we provide a safe and secure environment for socio-economic activities to thrive, even as we politic and vote. Life, limb, and property must be safe, and everyone must feel secure as they go about their business. The president was establishing the fact that peace and security are preconditions for development. So I'm surprised if anybody would suggest that Ghanaians are interested in the food and the schools and hospitals they will go without consideration to peace and security, which the Yabuatin tape borders on. So my brother got it all wrong. The president would not be excited about the kind of submission he just made. Now, see, I tell you, I have a certain personal liking for Wafaya Jan. He's been, for a period, quite a long time, a voice of moderation and restraint on air. I've appeared with him on many programs and I've been monitoring him too. There'll be only once or twice. I remember the Afesha incident, Cape Coast Afesha incident, if you recall, where he issued a statement of a certain explosive nature in counter to what had happened there. He subsequently retracted and apologized for the content, the gentleman that he is. And then also recently the Carl Wilson matter, I think on one of your sister station Asampa, where he spoke of operations boys and things. So it's just be once or twice that is fun itself. This appears to be a bit more serious than the earlier two examples I've given. And I feel very sorry for him because it has really undermined his integrity and credibility. It hurts. I'm being very honest with you. And I find it very difficult discussing it because of my own respect for him and things. But you see, that's politics. The issues here are very serious. The point about whether it is true or not that he was collecting monies from Ministry of Finance and the rest are subject for further interrogation and investigations. But in effect, he has dented the credibility and integrity of the Minister of Finance, whether true or false. And that is why the Minister of Finance is not happy and has issued a certain rebuttal and has asked the security agencies to investigate. So you see, you don't underestimate the thing. If you look at the explosiveness of the thing, the revelations, you know that even on that aspect, he has caused some damage to some people in the system, and in this case, the Minister of Finance. So it's unfair. But the more serious areas are these things about special forces. Knowing the history, when we saw the special forces the first time, I back it. I have no problems with it, and I defended it. But the kind of politics that came with it, a deputy minister who was even doing commentary that day, saying, "Oh, this is the cure for the all die be die people," gave it a political twist. Two, when Asedun Ketia came from overseas to a rally the NDC was holding, and the way he went about painting the special forces as a prescription for MPP or die be die. Indeed, I think the armed forces were not excited. They issued a statement making the point that this was a neutral organization, independent for the nation and all the rest, and was in order. So for something like this to come out, national organizer of the party talking to people and telling them how they could be enrolled or infiltrated, that's a better word, that's the precise word, into special forces. It undermines the integrity and professionalism of the armed forces. I can assure you, many soldiers will not be happy with that. Because whether he was going to do it or not going to do it, the fact that is now a public record does not help the professionalism and perceived independence of the armed forces. The worst part too, another terrible one, is the identity cards, the ID cards of national security. Again, whether he was going to be able to execute it or not, it's not good enough since it's out there. It compromises the integrity.
So the national security says they will investigate.
Yeah, but you see, there was another point he made, and I'm not sure I heard it well.
Sorry.
But he gave, please, just a second, I beg you. He talks about an earlier incident. He talks of earlier practices where they had been able to enlist some people into national security or people with ID cards.
Thank you.
Who had performed some.
Dr. Manibwama.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Manibwama.
Thank you very much.
I didn't know. Time had run.
I speak as someone who has worked with the Ghana Armed Forces establishment before. And I can tell you on authority that this one, it will not pass beyond the room in which Ofayaujan was, and he was talking about facilitating their enlistment into the special forces. The army doesn't work that way. But you see, this week we have read on the front pages of certain newspapers, murder tape, this, that. Where in that tape will you find murder?
If you
You understand?
are equal to
Murder
what
tape.
for what purpose?
Murder tape. Where in that
Conspiracy.
will you find murder? It sits
Please ask
very
me that
well.
question.
It sits very well with the twisting that our political opponents always will shower
We are equal to
on
able to sleep in peace.
on the
look over his shoulders.
slightest opportunity. I have in my hand here when President Mills had written to Regimanuel Gray for them to construct a house for his security personnel. We woke up the following one morning, and it was that President Mills was constructing a mansion or so. When the place,
What's the relevance of this?
I'm just
Propaganda. That's
talking
the-
about
that's
the
the
twist that our political opponents put on matters like this.
That's across the debate.
For me, I think that
30 seconds.
as a Ghanaian, you've been very unfair to me.
Sorry, 30 seconds.
Yes, I understand.
Yes.
For me, I'm very happy the finance minister has dismissed what was put out there. I'm also very happy the National Security Coordinator has taken the position that he has taken. I will not sit here and say that that is the best of statement to have come from a national organizer of a party. But if we are where we are, where the MPP is putting the parity between their flag bearer and our national organizer, then it should tell you how the MPP has descended. All die flag bearer and Yabua Tinjan. That is the parity.
I don't get the point.
It's a joke. Why do
you are not getting the point. A flag bearer goes for all die. Yeah, okay. All right, all those things. And that was fair game.
All right,
you shouldn't resign as flag bearer.
Sorry, Unfortunately, this is where we end the show. My name is Samson Ladia Yanini, and my guests have been Dr. Edward Omane-Boama, Deputy Sports and Youth Minister. Rashid Prepo was here earlier, and Nana Komia is Communications Director of the NPP. Malik Kweku Bako Jr. is Managing Editor of the Crusading Guide newspaper, and Samuel George is a member of government's communication team.